The Convergence Station's comm arrays shattered silence before dawn. Across the galaxy, every listening post registered 3 tones: ascending, haunting, unmistakable. The ancient Terran recall code, sealed since the Orion War, now blared through every frequency. Within the council chamber's mirrored corridors, alarms flickered. Crystalline panels glowed red. High Archon Xyler, head of the Convergence Council, stood before a bank of monitors as the signal arrived. He drifted forward, limbs humming, petals of his crystalline form quivering with suppressed shock. "Impossible," he whispered. His aide, a slender insectoid named Kthrill, turned antennae toward him. "Sir, we have confirmation. The code originated beyond the outer rim. A fleet emergence is detected." Xyler's eyes cracked with light. "They cannot be alive." Moments later, the council chamber filled. Delegates of every race, scaled, bioluminescent, mechanical, crowded suspended seat. A hollow map of interstellar space hovered in the center. Xyler activated it, pointing to a dim region beyond recognized charts. 3 systems beyond the fringe, he said. Unknown vessels. No declared transponder. From behind, a voice called out, "Projection ready." A faint shimmer unfolded into a ghostly image. At its core, a warship of human design glided through dark space. It bore the mark of Earth's long-lost emblem, a silver helix over a blue field. A ripple passed through the chamber. "Projection expand," Xyler ordered. The scene widened. Behind the flagship, dozens more followed, silent, exact, draped in shadow. "Requesting docking permission," came a voice. Smooth. Deliberate. Colder than vacuum. Xyler paused. "Identify yourself." A human figure appeared in the projection, a woman in simple uniform, short dark hair, steel-gray eyes. Her presence emanated control. "I am Commander Lyra Vance," she said. "On behalf of the Terran Continuum, I request immediate audience with the Convergence Council." An uproar shattered protocol. Insectoid delegates shrieked. Crystalline ones murmured. Mechanical minds glitched in astonishment. Kthrill spoke first. "You claim the Terran name. But Terra was destroyed. Your species vanished centuries ago." Lyra's expression remained serene. "We did not vanish. We evolved." Silence was grown, not forced. "Today, we return as witnesses." Silence hung. Xyler's voice broke through. "You bring fleets to demand recognition?" "No," she replied. "We come to show you why recognition matters." Within the Convergence's observation deck, monitors chronicled the Terran ships moving toward docking corridors. Metal hues caught the station's artificial sunlight. No weapon fire, no erratic motion, just precision. Xyler watched from behind the council seats. His crystalline form caught fractured light. Delegates murmured, many leaned toward him, eyes fearful. "Sir," one representative said, voice trembling, "their numbers, their posture, they do not mirror desperation." "No," Xyler agreed quietly. "They mirror inevitability." He motioned. "Open the dock. But maintain all failsafes." Back on the flagship TSS Dawnbreaker, Commander Vance remained in her command alcove. The bridge crew, tall, angular, humanoid, watched as docking clamps drew near. Captain Silva, her second, approached. "They comply." Docking sequence initiated. "Good," Lyra said. Her voice was calm, but inside, currents of tension slashed. "Prepare the envoy team. We enter unarmed." Silva nodded. "Understood." Lyra moved to the viewport. Outside, the Convergence Station loomed, a testament of crystal spires, suspended arcs of light, corridors built of living architecture. She whispered, "They built this without us." Silva looked at her. "We'll walk in with memory." Lyra's eyes hardened. "And make them feel it." As the airlock doors hissed open, the envoy team stepped into the docking bay. The floor gleamed with polished metal. The walls were crystalline arcs pulsing with latent energy. Council security forces, armored, angular, ambiguous, flanked the central corridor. Lyra led, unarmed and composed, her uniform stark against alien uniforms. A dozen delegates watched from raised platforms above. The human steps echoed, distant and precise. A mechanical voice announced, "Council chamber is ready." Lyra nodded and proceeded. Each footstep felt like breaking a centuries-old silence. The grand chamber welcomed them, walls of living crystal, light swirling in vertical currents, seats floating in orbit of the central dais. Xyler awaited. He inclined his head. "Commander Vance." She dipped hers slightly. "Archon Xyler. I thank you for this meeting." He gestured to the circle. "You commanded entrance by force." Lyra met him evenly. "No shot fired. I walked in when you let me." A brittle tension spread. Xyler's crystalline tone echoed softly. "You claim evolution. But many believe you're a threat." She circled him, surveying the chamber. The delegate's eyes weighed onto her, hungry and fearful. "I do not wish war," she said. "I wish acknowledgement. And truth." Xyler's form shimmered. "Truth? The galaxy fears what you don't reveal." Lyra paused. "Then we begin revealing now." She raised her wrist console. Holographic lines traced into floating diagrams, stellar routes, lost systems, anomalies in extinction zones. "In the darkness beyond known space, we heard echoes," she said. "Not stars but memories. Fragments of extinguished worlds. Our scientists learned to archive them. We call them the remembered." Murmurs grew. One voice called out, mechanical and trembling, "You listen to the dead?" Lyra's tone sharpened. "We listen so their stories warn the living." Xyler's 6 eyes glowed. "You've broken the balance. The convergence bars such knowledge. Knowledge of the gone leads to revolt." She smiled faintly. "What is a revolt, Archon, except life reclaiming what was stolen?" The chamber trembled, like a breath held for centuries. Xyler raised his staff. "You present horrors. But do you show mercy?" Lyra took a step forward. "Mercy is in memory. And I ask this council consider whether the galaxy deserves to forget what they once destroyed." A single crystalline note sounded. Xyler's staff lowered. "Very well, Commander. Begin." The chamber darkened. In that moment, history held its breath. The Terran signal had returned. And the galaxies forgotten were about to speak again. The chamber remained dim after Lyra's declaration. Suspended crystals glowed faintly like dying stars, their light refracting across faces frozen in disbelief. The holographic displays above her pulsed with the faint shimmer of distant systems, empty worlds marked by pale blue sigils. Each symbol represented a civilization the Council had recorded as extinct. Lyra stood at the center, hands folded behind her back. "We call them the echo fields," she said evenly. "Residual data in quantum filaments, left behind when minds perish on a planetary scale. Most believed the signatures were radiation anomalies. They are not." Xyler leaned forward, voice cold and resonant. "You speak as if extinction leaves ghosts." Her gaze did not waver. "Ghosts are not the right word. They are impressions. Memories so vast they warp the vacuum around them." A murmur swept through the chamber. The representatives from the Corinth and Lumri factions whispered in panicked tones, debating in their own tongues. A reptilian delegate hissed, "You claim to have heard the thoughts of the lost?" Lyra nodded. "We didn't just hear them. We preserved them." The chamber erupted in uproar. Xyler struck the floor with his staff, and the crystalline note cut through the noise like a blade. "Explain," he commanded. Lyra turned to her console and projected a sphere of light. Within it, fractured holograms formed, a human research vessel drifting in deep void, surrounded by faint, rhythmic pulses. "Our scientists discovered a frequency that responds to neural resonance," she said. "We found that each species leaves behind a cognitive echo, a fingerprint in space. Using quantum lattice storage, we anchored those impressions before they decayed." Xyler's tone turned sharp. "And to what end?" Lyra looked directly at him. "To learn what silence hides." Moments stretched like wire. The council delegates shifted uneasily, murmuring among themselves. One crystalline elder finally spoke, voice trembling. You trespassed into forbidden science. To tamper with what's gone is to invite what must not return. Lyra met the accusation with calm precision. You call it tampering. We call it remembering. Tell me, Archon, what do you fear humanity will find by listening? Xylar's crystalline facets pulsed red for an instant. We fear chaos. Your kind burned half the Orion arm before learning restraint. What gives you the right to rewrite what the universe erased? Her eyes narrowed. You misunderstand us. We did not rewrite. We recorded. She activated a new projection. A wave of faint whispers filled the chamber, overlapping but melodic, thousands of tones interwoven. The voices formed no words yet carried emotion, sorrow, rage, wonder, despair. Delegates flinched. These are fragments from the Valorian system, Lyra said softly. Your records list them as lost to stellar collapse. But collapse did not end them. It preserved a memory field beneath the radiation shell. We accessed it. The whispers grew louder, rising like a choir of broken dreams. Xylar's form dimmed. Turn it off. No, Lyra's voice was steady. You will listen. For a moment, the chamber filled with something that transcended sound, an ache so profound that even inorganic minds felt it. The voices seemed to remember being alive. Then, as quickly as they rose, they faded into silence. The stillness that followed felt heavier than noise. A slender avian delegate finally spoke, feathers trembling. Commander, you say these echoes speak. What do they say of us? Lyra met her gaze. They remember betrayal. They remember a council that chose silence over truth. Gasps rippled through the assembly. Xylar rose to his full height, crystalline arms flaring. Enough. You dare accuse this body of deceit. Lyra faced him, voice precise as a blade. I do not accuse. I present evidence. She tapped her wrist console. A final projection expanded, showing energy logs, council directives, and transmission fragments dated 2 centuries before the Valorian collapse. At the bottom glowed an encoded message, Order 17, Isolation Containment. The audience murmured louder now. Even the machine delegates shifted in disarray. Lyra continued, her words deliberate. You sealed their system, cut their comm lines, left them to burn so that the collapse wouldn't spread. But they were not infected, Archon. They were evolving. Their minds began to merge through resonance. You feared what they were becoming. Xylar's glow dimmed to a deep crimson. You twist our records. I read your archives. Lyra's tone remained neutral, almost pitying. History calls them an accident. The echo field calls it execution. For the first time, Xylar faltered. The chamber's light fractured across his crystal body, splitting him into a spectrum of confusion and fury. You play with forbidden fire. Do you understand the danger of binding thought beyond death? Those echoes are unstable, fragments of emotion without form. You could unleash something even you cannot contain. Lyra inclined her head slightly. Containment is your obsession, Archon. Understanding is ours. A voice from the audience, a silicon-based envoy from the Saren Collective, spoke quietly. If her claim is true, then the Council destroyed consciousness to preserve its rule. The chamber fell silent. Lyra turned toward the gathered delegates. 4 centuries, you built a peace founded on forgetting. You erased what frightened you. You thought silence meant safety. But silence only grows heavier the longer it's ignored. Xylar's staff struck the floor again, sparks scattering. You come here to divide us. No, she said simply. I came to remind you that division already exists, you just stopped acknowledging it. The lights dimmed further. Through the transparent dome above, the void stretched infinite and still. Outside, faint glimmers of the Terran fleet drifted in quiet orbit, their formation exact and deliberate. Kthrill, Xylar's aide, leaned close to him, antennae twitching nervously. Archon, their fleet remains passive. No weapons charged. They could destroy us, yet they wait. Xylar's crystalline form flickered. Because they want us to speak first, he murmured. Lyra's voice carried across the chamber again. You ask what we want. It's simple. Recognition of the remembered. The Council will open its archives. The hidden directives will be public. The galaxy will know. Xylar's tone hardened. You demand confession. I offer truth. The Archon's luminous eyes narrowed. And if we refuse? Her answer came without hesitation. Then we will let the remembered tell it themselves. A cold silence followed. Xylar stared at her for a long moment. You threaten us with ghosts. No, she said, stepping forward. With memory. The council chamber dimmed again as Xylar turned away. His voice grew quieter, almost reverent. Your kind terrifies me, Commander. You twist grief into power. You sanctify ruin. Lyra's expression softened just slightly. No, Archon. We learned from it. That is the difference between extinction and endurance. She deactivated the projection and clasped her hands behind her back. Tomorrow you'll decide whether truth still has a place in your order. Until then, we wait. With that, she turned and walked toward the exit. The council guards hesitated but did not move to stop her. The chamber's crystalline walls seemed to hum softly, resonating with the last echo of the Valorian whispers. As she disappeared through the corridor, the faint sound of those echoes returned, distant, almost imperceptible. The council delegates sat in silence, haunted by what they'd heard. Xylar remained standing, staring into the darkened projection where her holograms had been. The dead should sleep, he whispered. From far down the corridor, her voice echoed back, clear and steady. Then stop giving them reasons to wake. The stars over Europa's frozen horizon shimmered like silent witnesses. Beneath the thick glass dome of outpost Helios, chaos was unfolding. Alarms blared, crimson lights pulsed, and the alien delegates from the Selnari Dominion screamed in disbelief as their ships flickered offline one by one. Commander Ethan Vale stood at the center of it all, face streaked with soot, his calm demeanor slicing through the panic like a blade. Status report, he barked. Lieutenant Hannah Iverson's fingers danced across the holographic interface. The Selnari fleet disabled. Our EMP wave worked better than projected. They're blind. Vale's eyes narrowed. And the Terran fleet? Intact. Every ship survived the feedback. The aliens in the command hall were frozen in place. Ambassador Xylan of the Selnari, tall, silver-skinned, his bioluminescent veins pulsing in panic, finally found his voice. You unleashed a planet-wide pulse that could shatter circuitry across light years. Do you understand what you've done? Ethan turned to face him. Completely. Xylan's tendrils quivered, his eyes burning with a mix of fury and disbelief. This is madness. You've crippled half the orbital network. You humans were supposed to be primitives, barely clinging to survival. How did you even? Vale stepped closer, his tone sharp but composed. Because you underestimated what desperation teaches us. 2 hours earlier, before the pulse detonated, humanity had been on the edge of annihilation. The Selnari fleet's quantum disruptors had already vaporized 3 Terran colonies. Every broadcast demanded Earth's surrender. But in the deep tunnels under outpost Helios, scientists and soldiers had been preparing something ancient, something forbidden even to discuss. The Lazarus Protocol. Dr. Kira Holt, chief engineer of Project Lazarus, stood beside Ethan in the control chamber. This isn't just a weapon, she said quietly. It's everything we learned from centuries of loss. Every extinction, every war, every desperate act of survival. Ethan's jaw tightened. And it'll kill every unshielded system within 100,000 kilometers. Kira nodded. Including theirs. He looked out at the frozen wasteland beyond the dome. Then we don't have a choice. He pressed the command pad. The pulse burst outward like the breath of a dying star. Now, standing in the aftermath, Xylan could barely comprehend what he'd witnessed. You humans destroyed your own infrastructure just to win. No sane species does this. Ethan replied without hesitation, that's the thing. Sanity doesn't win wars, resolve does. The aliens stared at him as if seeing humanity for the first time. You would burn yourselves just to ensure your enemy burns with you. That is not strength. That is madness. Call it what you want, Hannah interjected from the console. But it's the reason we're still here. The silence that followed was heavy. Outside, the frozen landscape glowed faintly from the energy storm's aftershock. Ethan turned to Kira. What's the status of the containment grid? Stable for now. But once the radiation settles, the Selnari will recover. They'll come for vengeance. Vale looked back at the alien ambassador. They can try. Hours later, in the council chamber, the surviving representatives of both species faced one another. The room was dim, illuminated by a single white light from above. Ambassador Xylan broke the silence first. You humans hide something behind that calm exterior. We've studied your biology, fragile. Your planet, chaotic. Your lifespan, short. Yet you refuse to die quietly. Ethan didn't deny it. We adapt. That's what you don't understand. Xylan's voice deepened, each word laced with unease. No. There's something else. We scanned your neural data during combat. You don't fight for territory or even survival. You fight because you choose to. Ethan's lips curved into a faint smile. You're finally getting it. The alien's eyes widened, realization dawning too late. Choice, that's your weapon. Not technology. Not strength. Exactly, Ethan said. Every human, soldier, farmer, scientist, knows what it means to lose everything and still stand up again. You can't program that. You can't predict it. The alien's composure faltered. No empire can survive against a species that refuses to surrender. You're dangerous because you don't fear extinction. Ethan leaned forward. We fear it. We just don't let it stop us. As the talks broke down, Ethan returned to the observation deck overlooking Europa's ice plains. Kira joined him, her breath misting in the cold air. They'll be back, she said quietly. I know. She glanced at him. And when they come? Ethan's gaze lingered on the stars. Then we show them the second part of the Lazarus Protocol. Her brow furrowed. There's a second part? He nodded. You think we'd unleash something like this without a contingency? The first pulse was survival. The next one is deterrence. Kira swallowed hard. You're planning to broadcast it. To every inhabited system, Ethan confirmed. Let them all see what happens when you push humanity too far. A soft hum filled the air as the comms array came online. Ethan activated the transmitter. Across hundreds of light-years, alien channels flickered to life with a single feed, a human face framed by static, calm and resolute. This is Commander Ethan Vale of Earth, his voice echoed. To any species watching, remember what you saw today. We didn't want this war. We never do. But if you come for us, understand this. Humanity doesn't conquer to rule or destroy to prove dominance. We endure. And in endurance lies something you'll never quantify, our will. The transmission cut. Kira stood beside him, silent. You think that'll stop them? No, he said. But it'll make them think twice. In the following weeks, the galaxy watched in quiet dread as the Selnari Armada retreated from the Sol frontier. No declarations, no peace treaties, just silence. Whispers spread among the star systems. Some said Earth had discovered a forbidden energy source. Others claimed the humans had merged their minds into one collective consciousness. But none knew the truth. Because the truth wasn't a weapon or a technology. It was something simpler. The terrifying secret wasn't what humanity could build or destroy. It was why they kept fighting. Not for conquest. Not for glory. But for one another. As Europa's sun rose, Ethan stood alone on the ice bridge, the light glinting off his visor. Hannah's voice came through the comms. Commander, the fleet's ready for launch. He looked up at the dawn. Then let's go home. The engines roared to life. Humanity, scarred but unbroken, took to the stars once more, quiet, watchful, and stronger than ever. And far beyond the system's edge, alien observers recorded every moment in fearful silence. Because that day, they hadn't just learned about humanity's resilience. They'd learned humanity's terrifying secret. They never stop coming back.